I'm going to give Chad a minute to get that up. He didn't get a chance to before church. Okay.
Don't make excuses.
I know.
I'm running taxi service.
So what I'm going to do is tell him, once you get the PowerPoint up and running, go to worldwideWeb.newagemovement.org.
How you spell World Wide Web?
www. I just figure it's easier to say World Wide Web than it is www.
No.
Like longer.
It sounds better anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it.
What was it?
newagemovement.org. I'm going to, this is their actual website. It's hokey. I know that the topic for tonight is hokey for us who are believers, but you know, there's a lot of people, and I was discovering how many that have followed this New Age and mysticism and different things. And so what I'm going to do, once he gets there, there's a video at the bottom of the site. Once he gets there, I'm going to have him play this video, and then we're going to look at some things that are on the site. Then we'll get into the lessons. But
Is it the New Age? That one?
yeah, and that's the video. So if you'll play it. Are you tired of all this depression, is what it says. There's hope in our hearts, the new golden age. We believe in peace, we believe in spirituality. We believe in freedom for all, for you. We are one, we are the world. They want us to forget this, they want us to be slaves. But we are one. The solution is near. We help ourselves because the solution is here. The right solution, go to this website. Okay, now, you know, if somebody looks at that video that might be suffering with depression or different things like this that will look good to them, you know, you've heard of the term New Age music. There's all kinds of different stuff. I want to look at the website just for a second, unless you've already got off of it. If you have, that's okay. When you go here, it talks about the New Age movement, and go to the home, or is it already on home? Okay, now move up a little bit.
Well, you want me to look?
Scroll up.
Oh.
It talks about how people have been skeptical of the New Age movement and how it is A lot of people look at it as a cult and different things like that. And you can go and click off that and get onto the, that's too small for even me to read, and go ahead and get onto the PowerPoint. But here's the thing. The New Age movement believes in all kinds of, different spiritual religions. Not just their own idea about the earth, the spirit world, the healing powers, but they will incorporate Buddhists, Christians, any religion that has anything to do with morality but spirituality. And the thing is, they have a whole section about how Jesus was a New Age person. And the funny thing is, why it's called New Age is because it actually started in the 60s. You know, a lot of these other religions, have been around for hundreds of years, if not thousands, and they started in the 60s. And, you know the song, you've heard of the phrase, the age of Aquarius, it all comes out of that. And it's all about this, this type of movement. So, it's a New Age religion, and what it means is the answers are within you. Okay? You hold the key. And that's completely different than what the Bible teaches, but, I'm going to go back there. What is the New Age movement, okay? And so, just read along with me. I'm not going to read everything that's on the screen word for word, but what is the New Age movement? It's also called NAM, New Age movement. Is a movement that has many subdivisions. It is generally a collection of Eastern influenced metaphysical thought systems. There's a lot of Asians and Chinese and Japanese and different stuff, Middle Eastern, philosophies and things like that. It's a conglomeration of theologies, hopes, expectations held together with teachings of salvation, of correct thinking, correct knowledge. It is a theology of feel-goodism. Universal tolerance and moral relativism. What's that?
Joel Osteen.
Joel Osteen. Well, you know what? I was thinking about that. He actually come to mind. There's several preachers that have come to mind when I saw a lot of that, because there's this idea that you change the way you think, you change the way you live. There may be truth in some things like that, some basic truths like if you want to decide to not surround yourself with negative people or negative thoughts, well, yeah, there'll be more positive influences around you, less negative influences. That's scriptural. But it's never used by these folks in the Bible. Who can tell me how it's scriptural? What's the verse, or even if you don't know the verse, you might know kind of what it says. Bad company corrupts what? Good morals. Paul will say 2 or 3 different places, have nothing to do with these. It's scriptural in the sense of certain things, but a lot of times, they focus on things that are not scriptural, and it sounds good from a humanistic point of view. In the New Age movement, man is central, not God. Man is central. It's all about you. It all surrounds you. You hold the key. I was listening to several speeches by a guy named Jack Dyer. Has anybody ever heard of him? I got an email several years ago from a friend who got connected to this guy named Jack Dyer. He says, you've got to listen to these speeches. They are incredible. And so I thought, hey, there's a chance for me. And I started listening to him. And man, he was rolling along, and he was having all kinds of good stuff. It was a self-help type of thing. And at the time I was looking at it, and I'm saying, well, really, so far he hasn't said anything bad. But then he said something bad. He said, the central key to your well-being, to your happiness, to your joy, to your completeness is only found in you. And then he started using Jesus as an example. Then he started using Abraham as an example. He started using biblical character. Then he went on to prominent Buddhists as examples. You know, I emailed my friend back and I said, what are you thinking? You know, I said, have you listened to all of these? Oh, yeah, I listened to them. Weren't they great? And I said, no, they're sinful. I said, he has completely removed the central figure of our existence and put you, himself, mankind, as the central figure. Well, I didn't see it that way, you know. But, you know, it was really... And so this is a, you know... And so man is central. He is viewed as divine and co-creator, as hope for the future, peace and harmony. See, New Age movement is all about finding peace and harmony with yourself, with the universe, with the earth, with each other. Every religion that we have studied, but one, has put us as co-creators with God. Wow. You know, this is no different. A representative quote might be, I'm affected only by my thoughts. When I was doing a study for the New Age movement, Jim Carrey was one of their spokespeople. And he has gotten heavily into this. And he was talking about how he no longer allows other people's bad days, bad moods, how they treat him to affect his happiness. Then he started quoting all kinds of different people from the New Age movement, and then he started quoting this Middle Eastern guy. His name has slipped my mind, but he's very important in Oprah Winfrey's world. Shahak or something like that. But, you know, and he was talking about how he's the key to his happiness. But, you know, the truth is, unfortunately, for the New Age movement, the fear, and see, they talk about how there are two things in New Age movement, fear and love. You need to pursue one, and you need to extradite the other. And what they say is that, you know, the fear from which they want to be released will be the fear of damnation and conviction of sin. Doesn't most false religions want to remove the idea of you have to answer to somebody? You have to give, you have to stand for what you do before a holy God. They don't want that. They don't want to be judged. Fear of damnation, conviction of sin, and even sometimes the fear of Christianity and Christians. Though the New Age movement is tolerant of most theological positions, it is opposed to the narrow-mindedness of Christianity. If you were to go to the site and start looking at all the different topics that they have to look at, one of the topics is how Christ was a New Age person 2,000 years ago, but the believers in the church today was not what Christ wanted, and the church and Christianity has become narrow-minded. It teaches that Jesus, because it teaches that Jesus is the only way, and that there are no moral absolutes. There's 2 or 3 other videos I was going to show you, but for time I can't. But let me tell you about one. One was a 10-minute video of Oprah Winfrey when she had her show. And she had this guy, the same guy that Jim Carrey followed, in his offshoot of New Age movement. And she was talking about agreeing with something he said in his book, and he was a guest on there. He was talking about something she agreed with his book, that the ultimate achievement of man is happiness and that God is within all of us, and therefore there are many roads to God. Well, this girl in the audience spoke up, kind of interrupted the session, and says, well, according to the Bible, Jesus is the only way to God. And then Oprah went on to talk about, it's in this video, Oprah went on to talk about how that is absurd, it's old-fashioned thinking, and that a lot of people have got that wrong. And then she goes into her personal story that when she was in her 20s, she was attending this big Baptist church, and you had to get there at 8 o'clock in order to get a good seat, and the preacher was preaching. He was charismatic in his delivery of the sermon, and she was getting all wrapped up in it. And she said that he said, God is all-powerful. God is all-knowing. God is present everywhere at any time. And then he goes, God is a jealous God. And it hit her. How could a God who is all-loving, all-powerful, all-knowing, ever-present, be jealous? And she made her decision right then and there that that's not the God she wants to follow. So she goes around looking for something to fulfill her life. And on her show, she was having this discussion. Well, that lady says, I'm telling you, Oprah, or Miss Winfrey, however she said it, she goes, I'm telling you, the Bible says that the only way to Jesus, the only way to God is through Jesus. And the audience erupted in applause. And you can see Oprah getting very upset at that. So, there's this idea that if you don't have to answer to anybody, and if there are many roads to God, well, just choose one. I have also found you're not going to like this. You're not going to like what I'm getting ready to say. I have found 3 other videos. Now, this one you won't care about, where Joel Osteen. I found another one where Billy Graham. And another one where John MacArthur, were on Larry King. Billy Graham and Joel Osteen both admitted that it's possible that there are other ways to God. But they personally have chosen Jesus Christ. That blew me away. It was right there. It was unedited. It was not messed with. And Larry King even repeated that. Then he asked John MacArthur, is this what you believe? And John MacArthur said, absolutely not. He says the Bible teaches that there is no other way to heaven except through Jesus Christ. It kills me inside. It hurts me inside when we have these heroes of our modern day that succumb to that type of rationale. Even Mel Gibson, when he was promoting The Passion of the Christ, was being interviewed by somebody. And they asked him, well, do you believe that Jesus is the only way to God? He says, I believe it's the only way for me. He says, it might not be the only way for you, but it's the only way for me. And that was even a cop-out itself. So, you look at this. Now, the New Age movement actually is difficult to define because there's no hierarchy. There's no superior office that is held. There is an organization that's located in San Francisco because it started in San Francisco. It was just started by a few hippies that were looking for enlightenment, and it caught on to other hippies, and it caught on to creative type of people, actors, singers, poets, even grew into prominent business leaders. But it's hard to find because there's no doctrine, there's no collection plate, there's no actual membership. It is simply a collection, an assortment of different theologies with the common threads of toleration. The biggest threat in the church today, I honestly believe, is toleration. We are becoming so tolerant. Now, if you were with me with Romans this morning, you saw God is not tolerant, nor will He ever be. Well, people say, well, you can love the sinner, but not the sin. I'm telling you, it gets to a place where if the sinner's not willing to change, then you dust your feet off and you move on. And if the sinner's not willing to accept that Jesus is on the way and that you need to repent of your sins, you need to turn to Him, then you know what? The sinner's lost. And you move on. And so what they're trying to do is get this toleration to where you have this universal truth.
Before you get too far away from
Sure. Mm-hmm.
And what extent are you talking about dust your feet and move on? Because we are to go out into the world.
Right.
And but to what extent are you talking about there?
The extent that I was talking about this morning in Romans, where when a person is unwilling to be, to have the capacity to restrain sin, and they allow themselves to continue on in this, and I believe even the church has a responsibility to say, hey, you know, enough's enough. I'm not saying, see, my mom has prayed for both of my sisters since they deviated. And in a sense, they are coming back to a relationship with Jesus. Both of them are. A lot of them, they're coming back, one, because my mom has not stopped praying for them. She's not stopped loving on them and loving them. And they've had some hard knocks. They've learned some things the very hard way. And sometimes God knocks you down on your back. The problem is, when God disciplines you or knocks you on your back, or and you still refuse to abide and to follow Him and to acknowledge Him, I think it gets to a point where God, like I said this morning, just says, let Him go.
But I was thinking our responsibility. I ain't talking about God's responsibility. I'm talking about our responsibility.
As our responsibility?
As a Christian, to either a family member or a friend or a coworker or whatever. What's our responsibility?
Well, I think ultimately our responsibility is to never give up on them, because I've heard so many people say that. I've heard so many Christians say, well, I gave up on him, and here he is in church. So ultimately, I think our responsibility is not to give up on that person we're trying to win to Christ. But as a church, I do believe that we have allowed the sinful person to continue in sin because we have not loved them to the extent of saying, you're going to hell if you don't change. We get to the place where we're afraid to tell somebody, look, the life you're living, you know better, you've known better for years, or you know, you were a Christian, had a great walk, you've fallen away, or they've never made a commitment to Christ. But I think we get to a place where we tolerate what they do and don't confront them and say, you're in danger of hellfire. You're in danger of being separated from God for eternity. Literally, we've gotten away from telling them, turn or burn, because that has become politically incorrect, and it's become, that shows a church that is intolerant. Well, I think the church needs to get back to not being tolerant and to stand with the truth. Paul says that the gospel of Christ offends. Peter says that Christ causes men to stumble and fall. And so there will always be these people who will stumble and fall over the message of Christ and may never accept Jesus. But I think the close danger that we get into is where we tolerate their lifestyle. For instance, I've said this before, my home church. Yeah, can you hit stop?